We're back.
We are back.
Another week of Star Wars news. What a time to be alive in the fandom. And here we are. We so not only is Star Wars going on. I guess we don't really have any new projects going on, but we went to go see Brave New World over this past new weekend, as I'm sure most of our audience probably did as well. Star Wars, Marvel, they tend to go hand in hand. What's one without the other nowadays? Even they're both owned by Disney. It's like you got to go see everything. But we'll save our thoughts for Brave New World, and maybe we can get into that towards the end. But we got a lot of other fun stuff to cover. I saw this in the chat. I don't know if you saw this, but I said hit the like button just as a general comment. And then Star Wars Order, who is a new senator in our chat live stream, just gave me a bunch of thumbs up. If you could hit the like button that many times, Star Wars Order, I would really appreciate it. But unfortunately, I think you can only hit it once. It is what it is, but we'll take it. So glad that you're here. Glad that you could be a part of the channel as well. So, Journeyman. How's it going, first of all? It's good to talk to you.
Good. Sorry I couldn't be here last week. I was playing some basketball, so I forgot about what we were doing. So
that's fine. You ditched me, but it's fine. You're here now, and that's all that matters. So
exactly.
Last week we just pretty much talked about Ahsoka stuff. Just speculation. It was really, I don't know, if you get a chance to go watch it, you could go check it out. I had a lot of fun talking about Ahsoka stuff with everybody and getting excited for Ahsoka season 2. I can't believe they actually start filming in April, I think, right around when Star Wars Celebration goes on. So that's pretty exciting, if I do say so myself.
Absolutely. I'm ready for that show.
Now, well, speaking of Star Wars Celebration, that's actually a good segue. We were going to talk about Vanessa Marshall and how. So to couple the news, the announcement of Vanessa Marshall, who is the original, I shouldn't say original voice actor, is the voice actress for Hera Syndulla in Star Wars Rebels, but also the Bad Batch. Because they have that Bad Batch episode where the Bad Batch and Omega meet on Ryloth, and we meet Hera and Chopper, if you remember, in that episode. So that's a lot of fun. But she's the voice actress who plays Hera Syndulla. At the same time that it was announced Hayden Christensen would be coming to Star Wars Celebration in April in Japan, Vanessa Marshall was also announced that she was also going to be in attendance. So what does that mean? Well, a lot of people are speculating that there's a very good possibility that she has been working on something that is an animation project. Obviously, she's the voice actress. Ewan McGregor's wife is I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but Ewan McGregor's wife is the one who plays Hera in Ahsoka in live action. But Vanessa Marshall is a voice actress, and many are suspecting that we could be getting some type of animation project in the very near future, because there's currently nothing slated for animation right now. And so in the past, we've talked about, maybe they could do Luke Jedi Academy. I mean, even a Asajj Ventress spinoff, because they kind of set her character up in Bad Batch season 3. But
when we've talked about animation being a lot easier to have a better chance at being a great show, at least in my opinion. Like, I know George created Star Wars for the live action, but I think some of the stunts and some of the moves that you want to do or try, it's just better for animation.
It looks better in animation. I mean, I don't think there's any denying, and to me, and I don't get into all the nitty gritty details of what form it is and all this stuff, but Ahsoka's fighting style looks a lot different in animation than it does in live action to me. It's not so much that it takes me out of the story or anything, but it's still, there's a noticeable difference to it, right? So, like you could do a lot more in animation in that way. You can also bring in a lot more characters just in general into it, right? I mean, we've talked
Mhm.
about how you bring Luke Skywalker, Han, and Leia, throw them all on the same screen and get that, that interaction on screen in a project that we didn't necessarily get in the sequel trilogy. And
Sure.
so that's certainly a possibility they can do, but I think it's interesting that I guess I didn't have it in the back of my mind that Hera would be coming back to animation, but in a lot of ways, it makes a lot of sense. Um, and you know what I just thought of, which would be really, really cool. And now it's just coming to my head here. So one of the things that we people are speculating if it is Hera's a Harrison Dula show and animation is Omega could be actually brought into it. Like we said, they meet each other in the Ryloth. It may be I think it's 2 episodes actually in Bad Batch season 1. And they say their goodbyes, and they kind of set that up in some ways to suggest that we will see those 2 characters again. So,
Hmm.
and then you get the epilogue of the Bad Batch where Omega is going off to become part of the rebellion. You
Hmm.
remember this, where we see a older version of Omega, and they're going
Hmm.
off to the rebellion to be a pilot, I believe. So there's your connection to Hera again, right there. Hera's a pilot.
Hmm.
Omega's going to be a pilot. Could we see a sequel series to Star Wars Rebels? Now, a lot of people say season 5 of Rebels is the Ahsoka series, which is fair. It picks up the story, but this could
I
be
feel
the
like if you're gonna do that, it's all intermingling. It's all gonna be connected somehow. So like, I feel like if you do that, we got basically Ahsoka season or Rebel season 5 is Ahsoka season 1, and then you have Ahsoka season 2, and then wherever it falls in the timeline, like it's all going to be intermingled in between all of that. So, well, then that raises the question: where is Omega been? If we're going down that path.
well, you almost said Sabine there, and that was where my brain was going initially with this, and this is something I didn't think about. One of the things you and I have talked about for a really long time, and we get some answers in the Ahsoka series, but not a ton of answers, is
Hmm.
what happens to Ahsoka after she goes back through the World Between Worlds portal on Malachor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we see her walking through the ruins of the temple and everything,
Hmm.
but we really don't know what happens to her, other than we learn in Ahsoka that she at some point meets up with Sabine and trains Sabine prior to going back to Lothal to pick her up and go on their adventure to find Ezra.
Right.
Do we get to see that? And do we bring
But
back Ashley
yeah. Ooh.
to voice Ahsoka in animation?
I would love that. Anytime I can hear her voice in for Ahsoka, I just love it.
Wouldn't that
I
be a
would love
great
that.
way to bring? I mean, and it doesn't have to be a big,
No,
big part
no.
of the series, but that would be a really great way, I think, to bring her back into the Star Wars family to give her something to do.
Well, and the reason I think we're talking about a Hera show in the first place is the what's her name, Vanessa Marshall. Is that what it was?
Vanessa Marshall. Yep.
She's hinted, and maybe within context, she's talking about the other shows that are going on now and like what Disney has been up to at this point. But she's always hinted at like there's more to come, or in the article we read, there was more to come, and like
Mhm.
you should be able to see her more or like hear from her more. So like she felt like she was teasing something, and maybe this is it. But that's kind of why we're talking about it. Is
Yeah.
she's even teasing it herself, but
Yeah.
that could be wrong.
Yeah, well, I certainly just got a lot more excited. Like I was like, "Oh, this is cool. Let's talk about this." Like I, I'd like to see Omega brought in. I'd like to see Hera come back, but I'm like, wow, for some reason it didn't click to me. I was like, could this be the sequel to Rebels that we never really got?
I think we're putting things together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said before, this is probably, if we're going down this road, this could be Rebels 2.0 to where the story's actually split off and
Mm-hmm.
we see more of Hera's perspective and Omega's perspective, or whoever we're following at this point, their perspective, and you give the Ahsoka point like a little bit of light of being like, hey, here's what Ahsoka's been doing along this time. But like you kind of separate kind of what they've been doing with Ahsoka in season one. It's like you kind of have the separation story. Like you have
Mm-hmm.
we kind of meet up and everything when we get to the meet up with Ezra, but you kind of see where they've been, see where they've been going,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's what it, I think I like your idea. That's probably what they need to do. Is like
Yeah.
put everything together.
Yeah. Yeah. We have Tony in the chat. Good to see you, Tony. Thank you for being here. Says would like to see this animated series and then continues to say or follows up to say would like to continue where Rebels left off. Yeah. Like I don't know why I'm just putting this together right now, Tony, but like I'm like, wow, this is literally like we could literally be getting the sequel to Rebels. And so as you were just talking there, I was thinking like, okay, where do we let's think about the epilogue of Rebels, right? And so you have Zeb going off with Callus to find his people, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have uh, Hera who has Jason now. Uh, when
She's
Sabine,
basically picking up the pieces from Rebels. Like she's
well, she
is
stays
that
in the
before?
fight.
You're right. Yeah.
She stays in the fight, and they say that she fought in the Battle of Endor, and
Yeah.
Captain Rex also fought in the Battle of Endor. Now, wouldn't that be amazing to get the in Battle of Endor from the perspective of them in
Mm-hmm.
animation? That would be amazing.
Plus, I mean, I think they confirmed it, or maybe didn't confirm it, but that one guy uh, in episode 4 or whatever Battle of Endor, like the
Hmm.
bearded white guy,
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
they said like that was Rex, or they confirmed it or something like that. I'm sorry, but I'd like to see that a little bit more of like in animation, like that is actually him. Like do a
Hmm.
recreation shot of like, hey, that is Rex.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's like that would be so cool to get that perspective of the characters that fought in that battle. And I don't know, maybe you make that the finale and like give it kind of like a Siege of Mandalore style
Sure.
with Revenge of the Sith. That would be so epic, like to bridge
Oh,
that and
yeah.
like do the Siege of Mandalore style where it's like you see the tie-ins of like Revenge of the Sith playing out at the same time, but from a completely different perspective. That would be awesome.
And then if you want to even push it further, just not with Hera, but like the Ahsoka story, like once again, you said you see her on Malachor kind of going off and doing that, but then meeting up, like you said, meeting up with Sabine and like understanding what those difficulties were. Like
Yeah.
we kind of see it in the Ahsoka show, but like I kind of want to see what actually set her off. Like they said it was the hard training, but what was she training? What was the actual purpose of them just splitting up and like waiting for the show that we got?
You
Like
mean
I would think that would,
You mean
yeah,
Sabine?
Sabine.
Well, they kind of tie that up a little bit in the Ahsoka series. I think if I remember correctly, like they say that whenever the Empire like just uh the Night of a Thousand Tears or whatever they call it destroyed Mandalore, like
Mm-hmm.
Sabine took that really personal, and like I think Ahsoka was like, you got to kind of. I mean, I know it's your
Okay.
family, but you got to like kind of chill. Like you're not acting like a Jedi, basically. Is how I took it. I think they tie that up a little bit, but certainly, like I think we could expand on that a lot more, right? And Tony's getting me excited here in the chat, so I'm going to bring up some of his comments. Um, kind of quickly here. It says, would like to see Omega join Hera. That was predicted in Bad Batch. Okay, it was season 2, not season 1. I couldn't remember which season it was. Either way, yes, it was predicted. Because I think Hera's mom or somebody was like basically like whatever war we start now is going to be their war or something like that. And so it does set that up. And then here you go. Tony says it right here. Would like to see the backstory of Sabine and Ahsoka. Like, yes. Like, why did I literally just started having those thoughts as well, Tony. I think right before you joined. Like, I did not connect that in my brain when I'm thinking about a Harrison Dula show. Like, this is literally ties up all the loose ends that we see now between season 4 of Rebels and Ahsoka season 1 and the end of, the Empire falling and the New Republic rising. Like, this series is what we need. Almost. Oh man, now I'm torn. Do you? And I get to a few more of your comments here in a second, Tony. But do you feel like this would actually be more beneficial than like a Luke Jedi Academy series that kind of ties up the loose ends for the sequels? Like, what would you rather see?
I mean, I would rather see this because I think you can actually create a story out of it. The Luke Jedi Academy thing, you can do it, but you're going to have to be very careful with it.
Mm-hmm. May not be as fun because you're walking on thin ice.
Not only that, but I feel like there's not a whole lot of information that we know. I mean, that could be the case for why they should do that show, though, is like we don't have that much information other than, hey, they were doing a Jedi Academy. From what I've never read the books and all the novels and all that for the sequels, but like apparently been in. I know from this much, apparently been in, or Luke and Ben Solo basically went across the galaxy doing missions or whatever they were doing, and you could do that. That would be like the Luke thing that I would want you to do. But just to have like a Jedi Order show, I just think it's kind of boring. I think you kind of need to spice it up. Give me something other than just your average show of like, what do they call it? Kind of like what we got in Mando for Mando season 1, like episode of the week or whatever. I feel like that's what the Luke show would be. I feel like with the Ahsoka and Sabine thing, you would actually have importance and like a story and larger for the universe than what Luke would be.
Yeah. Well, I think equally, I think both need to happen at some point.
Sure.
But the more I'm thinking about it, I literally just made a video about Luke's Jedi Academy and how this is what we need and this is what we need now. But now I'm going to have to go back and make a new video about this is what they need to do. And they literally could already be doing it, right? Like,
right.
Gosh,
yeah.
That would be so cool. Like, okay, so like Tony's getting me excited here. So he says, would like to see what happened to Ahsoka when she steps into the Sith temple. Exactly. What happened? Where does she go? How does she get off Malachor? These are things you and I, Journeyman, have been talking about. And honestly, everybody also, here on this channel has been talking about.
I think the other question I have at that point is like, what made her decide to go train Sabine? Yes, she had training with Kanan at one point, but what made her go decide, hey, I need to go train Sabine? Out of all the things, out of all the people, like Sabine's the one.
Yeah, and Tony says it here. It would be a series that would clean up a lot of loose ends. And I never, for whatever reason, I guess I never thought that those loose ends, Tony, would be tied up in an animated series. Like, I figured a lot of those loose ends that we see, the ones we're talking about, like what happens to Ahsoka, really the stuff with Ahsoka. And then I think that we got to be careful, right? Because I don't actually know if that's the direction they would go with this. We're just speculating that they would bring in an Ahsoka. It would be cool. But, we're not really sure if that's the plan. All we know is Vanessa right now. All we know is Vanessa Marshall is going to be going to Star Wars Celebration, and it seems like for a while it was at the D23 event in 2024. She kind of teased that there's some things to come, and with her coming, I mean, to Star Wars Celebration, you would think there's a possibility that they could be announcing something there. So it would be really cool.
But it also makes sense that a lot of the loose ends would happen in animation. I know you say it's kind of shocking, but we've kind of already seen this with the shorts of the Sith and the Jedi of Ahsoka's story. Like we never knew that Ahsoka was at Padme's funeral. We never knew
right.
that like all those little storylines that we got in both the Sith and the Jedi show. Like a lot of those stories we never heard of before, and they were really short, really like loose ends that you just could throw in there.
Yeah, and
So
it's
to
like
me, it's not shocking.
no, and that's what the animated series do so well, in my opinion, is they do tie up those loose ends, right? And not so much maybe tie up loose ends all the time, but they do a really great job of shedding that additional context. And
Yes.
I think that's what makes I think that's why they're so good, is because they branch off of to what is already there, and I think that's what makes Star Wars is that the connectedness of it all. And then it's like one of the best recent ones I can think of is Dooku and him erasing the files,
Yep.
the archives for Camino. Like people's like it was such a simple scene, like, and it doesn't really have that much. It's not like we're talking about Ahsoka Tano leaving Malachor
No.
or what does she do. He literally just went in and erased some files, and fans were like, it's like that meme with
Yeah.
DiCaprio. It's like, oh, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like,
Well, and I think that's what the shocking thing for fans was is like, wait, you're telling me it was this simple? Not only like shocking in terms of that, just like it being simple, but like it took us this long to figure out who it was, or like you
mhm.
show us who it was, like, and it just expands on that, like you said, knowledge.
Yeah, it's the best the format to do that. I feel like, because I feel like what they do in the live action stuff is they pave the way, right? Let's pave the way forward. Let's create something new, and just do that. And the animated stuff, they really have found a really great way. Even in the Bad Batch that paved something new, they found a way to enhance a lot of the things that we've already seen. So I love it.
Well, and that's from the foundation of Star Wars, right? Like
Hmm.
George created the map road for it. Like he created 1 through 6, and then he's like, you know what? That Clone Wars stuff, we should probably go back and like revisit that.
Yeah.
And like it was his idea to like say, hey, we need to go expand on this.
Hmm. And it worked out very, very well. It's one of the most beloved
Hmm.
projects in all of Star Wars right now. Um, yeah. So I think Tony's arguing here that we need if I'm understanding him correctly, we need the Rebel sequels before the Jedi Academy. Says there's too many loose ends to complete before starting another series that brings out even more loose ends. So I would agree with you there, Tony. And in some ways, what would be really cool with this is to figure out a way to bridge this with a Jedi Academy show, right? So it's like
Hmm.
you can bridge the Clone Wars, the Bad Batch with Rebels, and then Rebels with this potentially new uh, Rebellion series sequel to Rebels, and then figure out a way that you can bridge some new characters that you put into that series with maybe Jod Nanawa from the Skeleton Crew, maybe
Yeah.
Cal Kestis, maybe, and then bridge all those characters into a Jedi Academy show that's animated. So they
Hmm.
really have an opportunity here. Will they seize it? Probably no. Probably not.
I do want to go back to what he was saying though. It's like there are too many loose ends to complete before starting another series. I kind of agree with that. Like I feel like the shows, especially with oh, what was the twin? Gosh, they just kind of blend together for me. The twin um show, the
Acolyte.
Power of One, Acolyte. Gosh, like I'm sorry, that's just
Oh, that's good.
uh, that show just is what it is. Well, I mean, they leave it off on. I'm so forgetting. I the Sith.
Plagueis.
Yes, Plague.
Plagueis and Yoda and all that good stuff. Yeah. And then
Yeah,
they canceled it. So
and then they're like, it didn't do well. Well, we're not gonna do it. So it's like, well, why do you do it in the first place? Quit trying to force the studio to write the thing. You're just like setting that show up for failure. Of
yeah.
that, like you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, we will we could leave the Acolyte there, but it's they have such a great, unique opportunity here. Tony says, but there are many fans that are not into animation who would rather see Luke complete his midlife to explain why he failed and why he is away. He is in the sequels. Why not also just do both? Like, just give us both at the same time. Like, is anybody really gonna complain? Like, just give us both at the same time.
As long as it's done right and it feels like it's done satisfaction to the characters, like
Yeah. Skyrim Clips says, hello, new sub here. Good to have you, Skyrim Clips. Welcome to the channel. Thank you for being now a senator of the channel. Tony says, the voice actor for the animated Ahsoka is showing up at Celebration, meaning that her voice will be used in the Hera animated series when Ahsoka shows. Is Ashley Eckstein confirmed to be there, Tony? I actually had not heard that. That would be really great if she is. Really great. Tony wants the treason video to play just for you.
It's treason, then.
There you go. We got Travis in the house. Welcome, Travis. Thank you for being here, buddy. Says the Acolyte ends with Vernestra walking in to see Yoda. Season 2 would have began panning down to reveal he's on the toilet.
it's a great comment.
Oh, that's really great. Oh, I can't get that image out of my head.
In the name of the Galactic Senate of the Republic, you're under arrest, Chancellor.
That's fair, honestly.
Oh, that's good. Good stuff. Let's see. Tony says, nice. Yep, just for you. Okay. Well, I don't know. Have we exhausted the Vanessa Marshall stuff and want to get on to more things here?
Probably.
Good deal. Okay. Well, we also wanted to talk about the recent I guess news. It's not really news. It's more of a rumor that Mara? I want to say Mara. I think it's Mara. Mara Jade. There's a Mara Jade series that's being rumored to be in development from I would say, semi-reliable source. My Time to Shine. Hello. Which I know a lot of people, including like Josh at the Den of Nerds, like people like when she does some like Marvel stuff that she gets right. She gets a lot of things right. He says like she's pretty reliable for the most part, but I don't know if it was in the article that I sent you, Journeyman, but did it say who they're rumoring to cast this character as, like the actress?
I don't remember. No,
I don't think it said in the article, but a lot of people are saying that Zendaya is being looked at to potentially be cast as Mara Jade.
Zendaya.
Now, before you were like, whoa, this is interesting. Mara Jade has red hair. Mike, a guy who loves Star Wars. Let's see if I can manifest Mike to show back up in the chat by just referencing his name. But I was he was a few streams back. I think he was covering this because it came out a few probably close to a week now. But anyway, he was saying that I mean, you think about it, uh, MJ, but who is the redhead that is Peter Parker's girlfriend in the Spider-Man movies? What's her name?
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane. Thank you. MJ. There you go. They were both redheads, and she replaced them as a redhead. So, thank you, Travis. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. So it fits, right? I mean, she's being rumored to be the one to play Mara Jade in some kind of project. It sounds obviously going to be live action.
Sure.
And she's replaced redheads in the past. So now
I just don't know how I feel about Zendaya being in Star Wars. It's like, once again, maybe I'm wrong, but like I feel like bringing a person in like that, I'm seeing them for their other stuff as well, and all I can picture is their other stuff, not in Star Wars. So that's kind of weird to me. It feels like you're bringing in The Rock, and all I can see is The Rock from other stuff like Fast and Furious and all that, and I'm like, he kind of doesn't fit here, but okay. Like,
yeah. Well, but the thing is there's a lot. She's not the only one. There's a lot of rumors are like Henry Cavill has been rumored to be coming to Star Wars in some capacity for a long time, and most recently Ryan Gosling has also been rumored to be in talks with Sean Levy's. I think we talked about it. I think 2 weeks ago, our first stream back, but I think Sean Levy's Star Wars movie. So they're trying. You wonder if it's a play to try to bring in some big talent to get people's attention back focused on the franchise. And so I guess my thing is that what I'm trying to say is it is in line with some of the other things that they're trying to do in terms of a strategy potentially.
It's a strategy. I don't know. The only thing I would say is like you're risking a lot by doing that. Of like, hey, look at all the stars that we're gonna have to pay millions and millions and millions of dollars for, and for it to potentially flop and make the franchise, dare I say it, that much worse. But
well, and not only that, but it's one of those things where most Star Wars fans, like, I would say we're more on the casual side. I mean, we watch all the
sure,
projects. We
yeah,
don't necessarily read
yeah,
all the books and stuff. I am reading a
sure,
book called The Shadows of the Sith book, which is a canon book that follows Luke Skywalker and Lando, uh, and like has Exegol and Rey's involved a little bit. I'm listening to the audiobook right now. I think I'm only on like chapter 3 though, so not too far into it. But anyway, all that to say, like, we don't follow this stuff really closely, but like, to me, I don't really care what actor you necessarily bring into a Star Wars project or actress. Like, at this point, what we've been lacking in this is just my argument, my take, is just some
sure,
cohesive storytelling. I think we're
yeah.
getting there with the Mandalorian universe. And I mean, we've been sitting pretty well with a lot of the projects lately. I can't really complain, but I don't really care, what act, like, you're not going to draw me to a Star Wars project and most Star Wars fans to a project just because of a particular actor that you bring in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
I could
I
be
think
wrong on that, but
I think for Marvel, it's the other way around. It's like
yeah.
people will go see, hey, this person's coming in to play this character. Oh, that's really cool. Star Wars fans, I think me and you just talking about us, like I think we just want, like you said, cohesive story, make it a great story, have the story pop and be the reason why it's doing well, not the other way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, it's great that it's just a rumor too. So it's
Sure.
not a lot of people are talking about it. It's kind of going under the radar a little bit, but nonetheless, it's cool. Sounds like there's going to be a project involved. So, Mara Jade, from once again, I haven't read a lot of the Legends stuff, but and I haven't read the original Heir to the Empire stuff, which is where Mara Jade is at. But cool character, starts off by being an ally of the Emperor, kind of like the Emperor's hand, and is, I believe, actually at Jabba's palace on Tatooine when Luke
Yep.
Skywalker is there in Return of the Jedi and is supposed to kill him. And then you have Joruus C'baoth and Mount Tantus and the clone of Luke, and I think she kills the clone of Luke, and then ultimately her and Luke actually get together and they have kids, and then that's what kind of sets up, a long track of Legends material. So very important central character to the Legends stuff. I'm curious on how they adapt to that if they decide to go that route into the existing canon. Who's to say that Luke doesn't actually have a relationship with somebody, and who's to say that that's part of why he decides to go to Octu? And
it would be, you talk about, Star Wars being a family show, and like that's a central thing of family.
mm-hmm.
What if that, like you said, what if that's the reason he left? Is like, what if his family ended up dying or whatever, or he thought was dead, something of that nature, where he's like, okay, I can't do it anymore. Like, my world is shattered. No one needs the Jedi anymore. Like, the only way I can protect myself and this group of people that is now just me, I just need to go away.
Yeah, very possible. I mean, and the thing that I forget is, you hear a lot of people complain, a lot of fans complain, or maybe not complain, more probably question is a better word. Why isn't Thrawn or this whole heir to the Empire stuff that they're setting up referenced in the sequel trilogy? And I mean, the right answer is most likely, well, they probably weren't thinking about all this at the time that they were writing these scripts. Or if they were, the people who are involved were not consulted enough. I mean, Dave Filoni, I believe, worked on The Last Jedi. So, I mean, I just don't think that this stuff was in mind. So that's probably the right answer. But the canon answer is, you got to remember that the sequel trilogy takes place 30 years after the original
trilogy.
Is it
30 or 40?
I believe it may be between 30 and 40. But either way, 30, 40, somewhere in between. That's a long time. I'm not even 30 years old. So it makes sense that a lot of stuff can happen in the galaxy, especially if it happens in those first 10 years. That gives 20 years of stuff and stories to be told. And quite frankly, like, I got to remind myself sometimes 20 years is a long time. That's the stuff that happened is in some ways probably long forgotten by many of those people. It's just another piece of the past, so it's certainly possible, all that to say, that they can bring in a character like Mara Jade, who has huge implications to the expanded universe and Legends and Luke. Obviously, they're probably going to change it a little bit. They've changed a lot of things from Legends materials already. But some people would argue that there's no room for her to come into canon. And I would disagree with that. I think that there are creative ways that you can bring her in. And in fact, I think a lot of fans do want to bring her in. So, yeah. Travis says, my logic was the Mandoverse is in a different galaxy, so may not be well known by people in the main one. Expand on that a little bit, Travis. Are you saying like the main in a different galaxy, like is in the sense that this is like Peridia and where Ahsoka's at, or are you saying like in your head this is taking place in a different galaxy and isn't a cohesive story? I want to say what you're saying here is that this is like maybe all these events like with Thrawn and everything is taking place in a different galaxy, so it's not as known to people in the main one, but you let me know there. Because that's certainly a possibility too. I mean, that's kind of what we thought was going to happen, right? Potentially with Ahsoka. This is why we don't see Ahsoka and some of these characters, is because they go to this, what we were calling at the time, the New Beyond, right? And they're doing their stuff there. So it's certainly possible that they end up going somewhere else and bring in the Grisk who are in the unknown regions and things like that.
Mhm.
So, a lot of fun stuff there. What are your thoughts on Mara Jade and potentially doing an adaptation?
I feel like an adaptation is fine. Like what we said, like you can do it. It's just how can at this point how can you convince the fans that this is a good or correct adaptation to make? Like we
Yeah.
know possibly that they're probably not going to have, more than likely they're probably not going to have him marry Luke and have kids and all that. But like, how do you give a correct or a more correct adaptation to bring in,
Mm-hmm.
and do that character justice, do the story justice? It all comes back to the story. I'm fine with it. I think it would be cool. It would be a central piece of, you know, that character, of the Heir to the Empire story, and like
Mm-hmm.
all that. But I just think once again, you just got to be very careful of how how they write it.
Yeah, I agree. Travis says the characters move to a different galaxy in Ahsoka, and a lot of the Thrawn stuff will take place there. But also, the sequel trilogy takes place over a year, so they just don't talk about it. Yeah, that's another important thing to note. Um, you know, Episode 7 and Episode 8 are literally back to back. We see Episode 7 get picked up by Episode 8, literally like the same scene with the lightsaber being given to
Right.
Luke, and then he throws it. Uh,
Don't.
It's treason, then.
but
Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it.
but it's a great point though. It's like, yeah, it only happens over a year, and so as someone once told me with my frustration with the sequels, it's just one bad year in the galaxy. We could forget about it. But no, I need to go back and watch the sequels. Honestly, if I had once again, here I am going on my rant about the technology thing. If we had better technology, we really just need to do a watch party and just rewatch the sequels. That could be a lot of fun. And just have fun with it, not go hard on it or make fun of it. Just go watch some Star Wars. I don't know. Maybe we can eventually do something like that, but it'd be kind of fun. But yeah, I mean, also, like, I'll just bring up your comment again, Travis. Like, it'd be really cool to see all this kind of take place in a different galaxy far, far away, you know? I don't know. He says here, but Ahsoka's in episode 9, so I think Dave has her story up until that point planned out.
Does he? Because the argument that I've heard from Dave is like, do we know that she's dead? Just because we hear her, does that mean that she's dead?
Well, I was going to say, yes and no, in my opinion, Travis. I don't disagree that I think what he did there, if he had any hand in that at all, was set her up in a way to where it's ambiguous, like you're saying, Journeyman,
Mm-hmm.
to maybe she's dead, maybe she's not, kind of thing. I mean, we hear Anakin, and Anakin is
And
obviously
Dave
dead.
loves ambiguity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm like, are we ever going to wrap up this Mortis God stuff, or are we just going to drag it out for ever?
30 years, here we go.
I mean, you think about it, the Mortis arc, when did it come out? 2010, 2011, somewhere in there? Like, we're going on 15 years almost of, I don't know. Hopefully we wrap it up soon. It says not that she's dead, but that Dave will get us to that point in her story. I don't think he's hinting she's alive if there wasn't a plan for her. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page with that. I think I think we're all saying like he's just getting like made that a point so that he could keep like it could go either way with it, right? Like it's not it's not binding to her character. Can you imagine if it was and they just took Ahsoka Tano, his character, and like he's like forced it on him and was like, "This is what you got to do." Like, no.
Well, that's kind of what I'm scared of that they did. It's like they're like, "Hey, who's a really important part in the galaxy? Oh, we'll just have everyone say their little line, and that'll give Rey the power to whatever get up and defeat Palpatine." Like, that's not what I want. It's like, I don't know how you can do that.
Yeah, that's I mean, the sequels are what they are. I hope that as we continue to build towards them in the Mandalorian universe and, you know, like these animated projects we've been talking about, eventually we can get it to a place where it's much, much better. And not that it's not already good. Some people really love them, and that's great. But just, you know, that's what my video was about a few days ago, was a case study of the Clone Wars. And I could have made the video way longer. I kept it as short as I possibly could. But just taking the Clone Wars and looking at what the Clone Wars did for Anakin and Hayden Christensen as a person, and changing how people viewed his performance, even, I would say, and all of that. So, yeah, I mean, why not? I think they are going to anyway, but I think it's in some ways really needed to actually go the extra mile and start to bridge some of those. So, yeah. Let's see here. The short story Crimson Corsair in the Lost Treasure of Count Dooku establishes the clone Kix is it cryogenically frozen and thawed out in episode. Oh, why can't I read
cryogenically frozen and thawed out in episode
7?
8.
Seven? So that thread is laid out for another story. You're gonna have to post that one in the Discord, Travis, and flesh out that thought, because either I'm really tired and don't understand that at all, or I don't know. It sounds really cool. I'm like Count Dooku, and we got a thought out clone or something. And it's like, yeah, let's go for it. But you're gonna have to flesh that one out for me in the Discord. That's a good segue. If you're not part of the Discord, I have the banner up right here. There should be a link in the description where you can go become a part of the Discord. And you know, we're growing it. Not a lot of conversation going on right now, obviously, but yeah, make sure you hit that link, join the Discord, and come join the conversations that go on there. Last week we were talking about Mexican food, so not just stuff about Star Wars, it's everything. So let's see. So there's a Jango clone alive in the sequel trilogy. Oh, okay. Maybe I'm not familiar with some of this stuff here. Let's see. Oh, we got Skyrim Clips here. Says new sub. Hey, quick question. What are your guys' favorite Sith? Mine is Nihilus. Great show, by the way. Thank you, Skyrim Clips. Favorite Sith. So, probably a good. So you're new sub here, obviously Skyrim Clips. I'll let Journeyman speak for himself, but I think we kind of like to describe ourselves as casual super fans. Like, we love all the cool stuff, Star Wars, but a lot of like the lore and Old Republic stuff specifically, I'm not still super familiar with. I don't know. I have to think about.
I mean, the obvious one for me, like just in terms of canon that we've watched, is Travis mentioned him earlier, is Dooku.
Yeah.
Like, at least for me, just the poise, the style fighting that he had. I mean, everyone loves the Emperor, and that's fine. And don't get me wrong, he's the main villain of it all. But I think a person that has went from the Jedi to the other side is really interesting. I mean, him. I would probably say Maul, though. I mean, Maul just has the dual lightsabers, especially with Sam Witwer's voicing in the Clone Wars. Like, it really, once again, another character that really has its story fleshed out, and like we actually got more from him.
Yeah,
I'd probably go Maul.
Yeah, I would say for me, and I don't know a lot about his character, but I find it this part about his character interesting is Darth Bane. I believe Bane is the one who initiated or started the rule of two, um,
Mm.
which I think is really interesting. Of like, just instead of branching out the power, like really consolidating the power, it's like it really goes into the heart of a Sith. I feel like of like not wanting to share, just that selfishness of just wanting to consume and control everything, which then
Mm-hmm.
starts the spiral of apprentice kills the master, who becomes the master, who takes an apprentice who kills the master, and that cycle. So, but thank you for the question. Really appreciate it. And glad you're part of the channel. Thank you for being here. Travis says Dooku's awesome, but I think his character was made into more of a generic villain after episode 2. He seemed more sophisticated in Attack of the Clones. Yeah, they kind of just let him go a little bit, I feel like, in episode 3, obviously very quickly, when he dies. And once again, this is the benefit of the Clone Wars. They were able to flesh his character out a little bit more. So, yeah, good stuff. Well, I'll throw up the just a general Q&A banner here. We could just kind of talk about anything and everything that we want, but we did want to give our thoughts and our take on Brave New World, Captain America, and just talk about that a little bit for fun, even though this is Star Wars, and we'll make sure that we keep it in the realm of Star Wars as well. So, gosh, where to begin? Well, first of all, everybody in the chat who's here, and then you can even drop a comment if you're watching this on the replay. But let me know what you thought. Give us a rating out of 10 on how, if you've seen Brave New World, what you'd give it out of 10. I would say for me currently, Journeyman, I'm sitting at probably a 7 out of 10. How you feel?
I'd probably give it the same, like 7.5, like somewhere right there. Like,
Yeah.
it was. I'll let you give your take, and then I'll give my take.
Okay. Yeah. And Travis says, haven't seen Brave New World. Just know one of the villains looks like he has fossilized cap. It really was an interesting way to portray. I mean, quite frankly, that was one of the least. I mean, just for me personally, I didn't really care about the visuals and the prosthetics for that, the makeup, whatever. I mean, it didn't bother me. I mean, oh, there's just so much to get into. Like you said, to give your take, and then I'm like, do I really? I don't want to just lay it all out, but here's how I'll bring it back into Star Wars. Okay, so I just made a short. The last short that I made was George Lucas talking about the downside of Star Wars. Okay, have you ever seen this interview where he talks about this?
No, I don't think so. I'll have to go watch it.
Okay, so there's two kind of like key points that I'll hit on that are included in the short. But basically what he says is the downside of Star Wars is the fact of, one, basically nowadays all these studios in Hollywood will only accept projects that they know are going to work, that there's a formula that is based off of them. And so it's like basically unless you can create, unless you're gonna get a sequel out of it or a trilogy or many different movies, they're like, we don't want it. Like they just want something that they can make money on. And he goes on to this long, it's George Lucas, so he goes on to this long spiel about this is what happens in this is what you would expect in a capitalistic society, in American society, that's all about money. I'm like, yeah, sure, and he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Like, they're in it to make money, and they're taking the formula. And he's like, that's what Star Wars showed them, was give them a trilogy, give them a franchise. And so it's like, basically, he's like, what it's created is this ability to not be creative. Like, there's a lack of creativity in the movie making, film making industry. And I think that could be a whole stream. So I'm not going to get into that. All that to say is, they played Brave New World really safe.
Yep.
Similar to once again to bridge it to Star Wars, I would say, and I really don't want to dog on the sequel, so that's not what I'm doing here. But I think anyone would agree that in a lot of ways, what they did with Episode 7 was do a copy paste of Episode 4 because it worked.
Yeah.
The Force Awakens is in a lot of ways resembles A New Hope, Episode 4, with just changing some of the character arcs slightly, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So the interesting thing about, and I think Travis, you said this in the Discord actually, was I felt like the Captain America movie really took inspiration from Civil War and Winter Soldier.
Yep.
And kind of bridged it together. And in that way, I actually, after thinking about it, Journeyman, I'm like, okay, those parts of it are cool. Once again, spoilers for Brave New World. So just FYI, I'll try to keep saying that for if somebody jumps in to the stream late. But, the mind control aspect of it, I thought was really, really cool. I thought they could have done it a little bit better. And I don't know, it was kind of confusing to me at first, but I almost kind of wish they would have drawn that mystery out even longer too, because it's like you see Isaiah Bradley get the flash on the screen and it's like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is I remember sitting in the theater. I don't think I told you this, but I'm like, okay, they're setting up a kind of a cool mystery here. The mist of they're going to have to figure out what's going on. But then they answered it pretty quickly and then set the stage for the rest of the movie, which was fine. Mm-hmm. But all that to say is I felt like, to keep my thoughts pretty general for the moment, I felt like they played it pretty safe. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. They played it pretty safe. In terms of bringing it to Star Wars, I would say they played it really safe. In terms of the final sequence of that movie, they could have done so many things with that, bringing in spoilers. They didn't bring in Green Hulk, Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. They never did any of that. They played it really safe. And in terms of Star Wars, I just wish they would do, and I guess they did for the sequels, but it shows kind of going too far of the side of playing it too risky versus too safe. There's always a fine line you have to walk. And I agree with you that you just got to be really careful. My real thoughts on it are, I think the thing you mentioned, the taking you out of place, the background type, it kind of took you out of place. I agree with that. I think my problem with it is, with the movie overall, is you could really see, like you said, though, the Winter Soldier and the Civil War stuff is cool. And don't get me wrong, but I feel like you could really, really see that, and you're like, I could immediately spot it.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of knew what they were doing at that point, and that's fine, that's cool. But it just kind of felt like we kind of knew where this direction was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And if they would have maybe changed how the movie was made, or the speed of it, or however you shot it, I feel like it could have been the same, but it could have felt different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, is it kind of just felt like those movies to me.
Yeah.
In terms of the end of the movie, what I was trying to remember is Skeleton Crew. They could have played that a little bit differently, and we came up with some ideas that they could have possibly done. And it's just well, you played it so safe, and that show was, to us, really good. Why didn't you take a little bit more of a risk,
Mm-hmm.
do something a little bit different. That's kind of how I felt with the end of the movie. I'm like, there's so many things that you could have done, so many ways that you could have ended that, but you basically end it. I'm just gonna kind of spoil it, but you kind of end it with therapy. It's like what it kind of felt like. It's like, okay, sure, like end it how
Yeah.
you want, but it was kind of just lackluster.
Yeah. No, and I think what you said there will make sense for people when they actually go see it. And I know that I compared it to Moana, the end of the ending of Moana. I mean, it is Disney, but yeah, we'll leave it there so we don't completely spoil the end. But I want to point out what Travis said here, though. Says my mom took me to see Incredible Hulk as a kid, so there'll be something nostalgic about seeing those threads tied up. And I would say that yes,
Yeah,
to that extent, it's going off of nostalgia. I think for you, especially Travis, just based off of reading your comment there, I think you'll enjoy it because it does a really good job at closing up those loose ends, I would say.
I still feel like stylistically, I want what the Incredible Hulk was for the Hulk, Red Hulk, like all that. Like I still want that stylistic of
Yeah.
uh, like CGI,
Well,
but
yeah,
it's
and
so
that's
smooth and clean, and I'm like, can we not give this guy a little bit more muscles, like little more veins, something?
yeah, and that's I mean, and that's getting out of the spoiler realm, is like that took me out of like this was telling Journeyman. I'm not generally the one to really, even in Star Wars, like when we're talking about, you know, uh, CGI and stylistically how things are portrayed visually. The Last Jedi is amazing, and it is. But I'm just saying, like, I don't generally care about that kind of stuff. Generally speaking, okay.
Sure. Hmm.
However, two projects that have taken me out of the story based off of the stylistic approach. One has been Star Wars and
Hmm.
one is Marvel. Brave New World took me out of the story on a few different occasions based off of the CGI that was being done. I was like, this literally looks like a movie. And it is a movie. Don't get me wrong. But
Hmm.
when you have something on the big screen like that, it really shows. Okay. Kenobi. Kenobi was the other one that I
Hmm.
remember telling you, like, what am I watching right now? Like, it's fine. There's some great parts. The finale is awesome with, Vader and Kenobi meeting, whatever. But they look like they're running through a construction site in the third episode. Or is it the fourth episode? No, it's the third episode. It looks horrible,
Whichever
in
of
my
it is.
opinion. It looks horrible, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. But those are the two times where I like I said, I don't generally notice this kind of thing, and I noticed it in both of those, and it actually took me out of the story. So go see Brave New World for yourself for the CGI piece of it, and everyone let me know what you
Yeah.
think. But that's how I felt for me. Travis says, for me, the CG at the end of No Way Home looked like someone threw some action figures in the air and filmed it in slow-mo, also literally in a construction site. Yeah. That's another one where I wouldn't say I noticed it as much, Travis, but you do kind of notice it a little bit more. But I hope eventually you can go watch this movie, Travis, and you let me know in the Discord what your thoughts are on the CGI. I don't want to sway your opinion. Some people probably don't notice it at all. Like, would you honestly say you noticed it, Journeyman, in the theater, the CGI in the movie?
No. No, the only thing, going back to what Travis was talking about, was the stylistic style of what Hulk looks like
Mm-hmm.
in the Incredible Hulk. I want to go back to that. I never really noticed any other things particularly. I thought it was really interesting them using like more or less blur on the background
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the fight. Like once again, we're supposed to be in DC. I get it. They're trying not to do too much. So I thought that was an interesting style point. But like, I really just want the animation or stylistic version of the Incredible Hulk back. Like, I want Angry Hulk, I want Angry Red Hulk, but I want it in the style of the Incredible Hulk. Like,
Yeah.
Abomination and the Hulk look nasty in that movie. Like, they look like they are not human, and they look like there was no clean surfaces or anything like that. And now it just feels like it was run through a computer. It was, made to look really good. And I'm like, okay, we can choose this style. I'm not like angry with it. I think it would look better. It
Well,
would make it feel like it looks like we're in that world.
and it goes to show, and this isn't just this this project. I see all the time. There's a particular like reel that I always see on Instagram, and it's like Davy Jones in Pirates of the Caribbean, where he's playing the organ, and it's like, when did we go wrong with CGI? And I think that's what you're saying. You guys are saying, because I know Travis is saying it too. Like it's almost like we've regressed in a lot of ways, and that kind of along the same lines of what George Lucas says. Again, to tie it back into Star Wars a little bit here. George Lucas said in that same interview that I posted in the shorts clip, is like, they like to just throw all these effects on the screen and be like, look at this action, look at this explosion, look at this CGI. And he's like, it's really about the story at the end of the day, and really nailing down the story. And I say that not specifically related to what we're talking about here, but I mean, I agree, right? I think we would all agree. Travis says Red Bull.
I think the point though with George's point of like it matters to the story is the little decisions that you make for each character, each decision that you make. It's got to fit the story and fit the world. And even the littlest decisions can throw that story off and make it not seem like it's a great story.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what we're losing today in movies. It's like they don't really care about the littlest detail. We're like you said, oh, just look at the action. Look at all the people here. Look at the team up that we're having.
Yeah.
It's like, that's great. That's cool. Doesn't really look that great in all honesty.
And where's the story? Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah. This is an interesting question here that we've, behind the scenes, we've talked a little bit about Sam Wilson as Cap, but Travis says, would the movie have been more interesting if it was John Walker in the lead instead of Sam?
I felt like it should have. I'm going to go into my little rant. It felt like it always should have been Bucky. And to me, personally, I get it why it's not, because Bucky has done some horrible things, and that's in his past, and he will always have that kind of hanging around him. Plus, he's in the Thunderbolts, so you got that going on.
Well, and he's also has I'm not going to spoil this because this is, never mind. I won't. I'm actually not going to spoil it, but
just don't say it. But like, I felt like it always should have been Bucky at the end. Like, he has stood by Cap's side for so long, and to just feel like Sam was a loyal guy. He helped him out in Winter Soldier. Like, he really trusted. He really got on Cap's good side. But there was something about the loyalty of like Sam and Bucky always being together, and him not handing over the shield kind of just to me was like, you're not saying you didn't honor your friend, but it's like felt like he didn't even trust him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of story wise like really sad. I'm like, well, this kind of sucks.
Yeah, and I will say what I think you're getting at here, maybe, Travis, is like, I think that's where Bucky would have been really cool, is he's that bridge, but that closer bridge to Steve, but also would bring out that darker side that John Walker kind of exhibits, and I think it would be really kind of compelling on screen. That to segue into this, I just don't find Sam Wilson. I don't even know if it's the actor's fault. This is kind of what we were
No,
Anthony Mackie. I don't really think it's even his
Yeah.
fault. I think that the backstory of Sam Wilson is just not compelling enough for me to be Captain America. Like,
right. Well, and what I said is he is a B-level character. He is a sidekick to me. Like, nothing against Anthony Mackie, nothing against like what he's doing. He's doing a great job for what he's working with. But like, to me, if you bring in a B-level character, he is always going to be a B-level character. Maybe he can move up and he can shock me somehow. But like, if you're gonna bring him in as a sidekick, he's got to feel like has fulfilled the shoes.
but that's the
And
thing.
to me,
Like,
I'm like,
but I would
I'm
say
still
that
not convinced.
I would say Bucky is I would say more of a B-level character as well, in my opinion. But I would say that would be still more of a compelling fit.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me get caught up on some of these things here. Let's see. Skyrim Clips back in the chat says, "What's your guys' favorite movie from Star Wars? Return of the Jedi is mine. It's just perfect." Grew up watching the prequels as a kid, Skyrim Clips, so Revenge of the Sith is my favorite, but I would say that Return probably I go back and forth between Return of the Jedi and Empire. Yeah, I think depending on the day, I'd go back between those, back and forth. But I think like Revenge of the Sith will always have the top spot as my favorite, with a close second to Return of the Jedi or Empire. If I'm wanting like a good just like story, like just kind of outside the realm of like a normal, heroes don't win kind of thing, and I'm like, yeah, this is real life, it's Empire. But if I want the hopeful side, I would say like
also episode 4 is really good, like just to start the whole story.
That's a one I like. I've always thought it was just like cozy, like just put it on in the background and like you don't really got to watch it, but it's just like there, and it's just like that's Star Wars, Yeah, it's that's awesome. Thank you for that question. Travis says you made my night because Return of the Jedi is my favorite as well. It's a great film. I love the redemption of Anakin, and that's why I'm so excited just to see him on screen more, particularly in Ahsoka, just to see him even more redeemed, right? Like what is he doing now that is just further solidifying his destiny as the chosen one. Travis says an Amazing Spider-Man 2 is 2014 and blows my mind every time I see it. The effects are so advanced compared to stuff 10 years later. Yeah, it's honestly like they should do a in-depth study on what's happening when it comes to filmmaking and why it seems to be regressing.
Even if you go watch Transformers is still top tier, like CGI. And that has a lot of moving parts for every robot.
Yeah.
And yet it still looks great, even now.
This is a really, I would say kind of a good take, a good counter argument to Bucky becoming Cap. I agree Bucky's more interesting, but I think the idea is Captain America needs to be of the time he's in. Steve was out of place in the modern world. Sam knows how the new world is. I think there's a good argument for that, Travis, but I would still say go watch it for yourself. But I do not find him to be a compelling character at all.
I think, I don't know if this is spoilers or not, but I feel like I just have to bring up the argument because it bothers me every time I think about this argument. It's like they're writing for Sam's character, even he doesn't want it. Like, even he talks about not wanting it. So I'm like, how can you convince me that the guy doesn't want it? That would be my argument.
Yeah. Yeah, and the character himself goes through a lot of things, and I need to go back and watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but a lot of the same, you know, the same tropes from Falcon and the Winter Soldier in terms of how he's dealing with becoming Captain America and taking on the mantle of Steve Rogers. It's like you kind of want those loops to be closed in the series and then see him take on, like, I really just want to see him take on that leadership role, I think, is what I'm waiting for. And he doesn't really do that in this one. So anyway, Travis says, you guys should do a ranking stream or one where you both talk about your favorite. Yeah, we should definitely do that sometime. Again, if I could share my screen without my stream crashing. Wait, did I say that right? Share my screen without my stream crashing. I would definitely do it, but I got to get better internet or something. I don't know what's going on. Maybe we'll do it one day for sure. We got to do watch parties too. But anyway, I'll do one more quick little plug for the Discord. If you're not a member of the Discord, go to the description of this live stream and you should be able to hit that link and join our Discord. Come join the conversation there. If you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're going to be back next Thursday to talk whatever news is out there in the Star Wars realm. So make sure you, stay subscribed so you come see that. And go check out my most recent video that talks about Ahsoka Tano's destiny and why Ahsoka is so important. It's a really great video. So I'd appreciate it if you go smash that like button on that video, drop a comment, watch the full thing, and let me know your thoughts on that one. But until then, we're going to get on out of here. Thank you all for being senators of the channel. We really appreciate it. May the force be with you always.